and get ready for the workday.
At KSMO, it's time for our friends from Intercounty Electric to show up, and by golly, Heather made it.
I did. I made it in.
Very good. Good to have you here, girl.
Nice
you look
to be
great.
here.
What's a
Well,
special
thank you.
occasion today besides Roundup meeting?
Nope. It's going to be 70 degrees. That means dress.
I see. Okay. Well, anyway, you look very
Well,
nice.
thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate that. So here it is. It's March, and we all know March means March Madness. We all know that.
Yeah.
But also March means we're going to have a get-together with some people who participated in a junior essay writing contest, correct?
You are correct. And we had great participation. I'm so excited to say that. It's our essay contest. It's one of those things you're asking high school kids to write an essay that they don't have to. And then you're telling them, hey, after you write the essay, then we're going to interview you. And if the essay didn't freak them out, the interview certainly does. So, you always just kind of hold your breath a little bit. Like, are the kids this year going to, are they going to do this? Are they going to take this opportunity? And it is a huge opportunity because, like we talked about last month, they could win a free trip to D.C. or to Jeff City. So, huge opportunity, but still, yet sometimes getting them to participate.
I know, but a huge opportunity for just a little effort. It doesn't take long. 15, 20 minutes, and it's all about what you feel and think. It's not about stats and facts. It's about what's your impression, and I think that kind of makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and that's our hope. We don't want the kids to feel like they have to write a research paper and that there's a right or wrong answer. So for the last several years, it's been more of an opinion essay, and this year we asked the students to write about one of their role models and why that person is important to them.
So how many did you get on me?
Well, the same number that I got on me. So we're in the same boat.
That many,
That
huh?
many, right? Yeah, all of them? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't know I was so popular.
We had some really good essays. I think a lot of times students, this generation, there's opinions about them that, they don't work hard or they're not going to write this essay and reading some of those essays, these are bright kids. They took the effort to write this essay. They wrote really well. I hope, and when we see them later this month, I'm going to encourage them. The ones that wrote about people that they know, we had some that wrote about actors. We had some that wrote about people who are no longer here. But we had some kids that wrote about coaches, teachers, parents, siblings, some really, really good essays. And I hope that they have let that person read it. There was one in particular, they wrote about their mother, and that just, struck a chord with me. And I'm like, I hope these kids shared these with the person that they wrote about, if that person's still around, because they did a really good job.
One thing, and it's just the changing of the times, is you just don't have that verbal communication with these youngsters and sit around the table. Remember the old dinner table? You get home and people would converse, and you would talk about your day and talk about different things going on. Or you go over to your friend's house and you would yap and you do different things. Now people are very content texting or video chatting or whatever, instead of actually taking the effort and go and see somebody face to face. They don't have to do that anymore. I think that skill has been really watered down here lately because we were just getting back from Florida, and I just saw so many of these younger people. They're afraid of their own shadow when they meet another person. They don't know how to handle it.
They feel awkward.
They do. They feel they're kind of set back. They're not very forthcoming. Okay, so they don't really know how to make somebody feel welcome. Feel comfortable, and I'm hoping that's not going to become a lost art where people are so stiff that they just can't be themselves around people, because that's when you really find out about people. When people so I heard the old term, let the hair down, and just they let them just start talking, and they usually you get to find out pretty good information about somebody, or at least their priorities, or maybe what their preferences are. Well, in this case, they get a chance to do it, turn it in, and get a good possibly be on their way to D.C. or even Jeff City for just talking about something that is it should, and it sounds like in some cases, Heather, very important to them.
Absolutely.
How it may have affected their life, or, we see a lot of things happen today. People affect other people in so many different ways. And it might even be a nonverbal communication. It may just be something that they did that they admire and they want to copy, all the way to something, as you're mentioning, coaches. Sometimes a coach is the one that either gives you the pat on the back or maybe the lecture that you might need to turn your life around, or maybe give you that wake-up call like, you're not a great athlete, but you're a fantastic, manager. Maybe that's the direction you need to go. A lot of times it's hard to face the fact that you can't make the team, but you can still be a part of the team.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. So
Yeah.
I hope, like you said, though, I hope that any of those that really did a good job of complimenting somebody who's still with us, especially if it's a grandparent or something like that, they should let them read that.
Yeah.
Just see that they have done something that you admire, because, they're not going to be here forever.
That's right. That's absolutely right. And, we talk about these kids and the inability to maybe communicate in person, like you said you kind of saw when you were out of state here recently. Part of why we do this program is because we want kids to kind of get out of their comfort zone. And the essay, they can write that without having to communicate with someone. The interview terrifies them. I will tell you, they are scared to death.
Sure.
That's the second part of this essay contest. They make top 3 at their school with the essay, and then we invite them on a Saturday in March to come and interview before a panel of 3 judges, and they are terrified.
But it's a great experience because they're going to have to do it somewhere down the road.
Right, and that's what we tell them. These are 3 individuals that volunteered their morning to sit with us, to talk to them. We try to make sure we've got a retired school teacher in there. They're not there to grill these kids and see them break down, and I think that's what they feel like this is going to be so awful. And it's a conversation, and we tell them, we realize you're going to be nervous. This is going to take like 5 minutes, then it will be over. So even if you do awful, it won't be prolonged. It'll be over. But if you can get your first interview jitters out through this contest, then get them out here, and then you can nail your first job interview or whatever it might be.
Well, you're still going to be nervous when you go to a job interview, but at least you'll know how to handle that nervousness.
That's right.
The first time you do it, you're going to... I think the apprehension that people have about an event, be it speaking in public, be it interview, address a crowd, or whatever, you get butterflies. You just don't know how it's going to be. And then usually once you get started, it's not so bad. And once you're finished, that wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
No big deal.
We have a table of snacks, I'll tell you, the day of the interview, and no one will eat beforehand. They don't. They sit at the table and they wait for their name to be called, and they come out of the interview and they go straight to the snack table, and they're piling on donuts and cookies, and they're like, if I knew it was that easy.
They probably don't drink anything either because they don't want to have to get up there and have to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, and they're like, if I would have known it was going to be that easy, I would have ate one of these when I first came in. It's a good experience for them. And then both trips. I mean, to send them out either to our nation's capital or our state capital, not with their family, not with people that they know or they're comfortable with. That, too, is scary for a lot of them. But it kind of pushes them outside of that comfort zone a little bit, and they come back and they've had a fantastic time. And it's, for a lot of them, I know it sounds, a little corny to say it changes their lives, but these kids come back and they're like, I had no idea what I won, and this was so good, and I'm so glad that I went. And we just have a lot of really good positive feedback from these kids who were very nervous to go. And we've had students, and I say oddly enough, but it kind of goes with what you've said. The longer I do this program, every year I have more and more students who ask, can a parent come with me? And I think when I was at it, I wouldn't have asked. I mean, not that I didn't love my parents. I don't want it to sound like that.
No.
But I would have assumed they wouldn't go, and I would have never asked. And they are just to leave home, to go somewhere new, without someone that they know. It's
It's a bit
odd
terrifying.
to them. Yeah.
And here's the neat thing about these trips. They're going to see something, and they're going to do something they've never done before. And to see something that they've never done before, my goodness gracious, there's going to be a bunch of those,
Yep.
And I hope the kids actually take, and I hate to say diary, but maybe a journal. I wish you'd actually have them write about their experiences after the fact, because I think you'd get some incredibly great essays.
Yeah.
Because some of these kids are going to learn more about what the real world was like. They're going to learn more about maybe a little bit about history, maybe a little bit about what goes on in, getting a bill passed and things of that nature in a real live setting. Heather, it becomes, when you say all life altering, and I'm not going to say life changing, but maybe life altering, is when people actually get out of their comfort zone and they go to a place that they, you wonder how these things are done. I just getting back from Florida, and I just was down the Keys, and you're sitting there going, how the heck did they get that out there?
Just makes your mind work.
Well, it does, because you have to think first off, you have to think somebody had to figure this out. Then they had to put it in motion. And then you have to think back years ago, well, we didn't have the equipment we do.
Right.
So how did they get this done? How many people had to do this? How many people had to work together to get something like this done, to build these fortresses or to do this stuff? Or even look at something that Mother Nature has done over years. It's pretty amazing. And then when they tell you some stuff, like I was finding about Key West, it's basically built on rotted roots. There's no earth out there. It's built on coral and this tree that roots collect everything that goes by it. So after a period of time, those roots rot, and it just becomes soil. But it's all protected by these roots. It holds it all together.
Yeah.
So you're sitting there on an island being held together by rotted roots.
That's comforting.
Scary. No, but it's over how many millions of years? So you learn something about this. You're thinking, whoa.
Yeah. And the students that come back, especially from DC, one of the things that we hear from them, these kids, they don't just have access to pictures of these things in textbooks. Right. They can do digital tours, online tours of the Smithsonian Museum. And they can, somebody there's this video, or maybe in a movie, they're like, oh, I watched Night at the Museum. I've seen this before. They come back and they're like, we had no idea how big these things were.
That's what I mean, yeah.
In
true full view.
In being there in person, even with all the access to the resources that they have now, things that they think are not going to be a big deal because they've seen it before, they've watched movies, they've seen these virtual tours, like I said, they go and they're like, oh, wow, this is not what I expected, and Iwo Jima, that's one of the ones that they've talked about. Like, they go, and I completely agree with this. The first time I went, I just thought, I've seen this. I've seen pictures of this memorial, this monument, and you get there, and it's just like, it's huge.
Yeah, it's wild.
And that leaves a lasting impression on these kids. And that's part of why we want them out there, too. So it's a really great program. I'm really glad that we had good participation at each of the schools. We've had years where there's not been even 3 kids try to write the essay.
There's been years there hasn't been one.
You're right. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So did every school have 3?
Every school has 3.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
And very good. And you know who those 3 are?
I do.
Oh,
I
you
do
actually
know who they
have,
are. Yeah, so we don't know who's going on which trip yet, because these are the 3 finalists from each school.
This upcoming weekend?
The 26th, so not this weekend. You
2
guys have got the road rally race over here this
yes,
weekend.
We do.
But the following,
It's
or
also
I said
St. Patty's
26th,
Day,
23rd. I think it's
I'm sure those kids will be busy St. Patty's Day.
Oh, yeah. 23rd, actually, is the Saturday that so weekend before Easter. But these students right now, what they're doing, they've got a Q&A packet. We've given them questions and answers that we are going to use in that interview process. So they are studying. If you recognize the names of any of these students, congratulate them, because they wrote an essay that was not required. They came out on top out of their whole junior class. Their essay was one of the top 3. So they've already sort of proven their character a little bit, if you will, and now they're studying for that test. So
Do you have a total amount of essays that were submitted by all schools?
I do not, because they don't ever tell us how many
okay.
students participated.
They
but
just narrow it down to the 3 you
they
get.
narrow it down to the 3. But how they judge those at the schools, they remove the students' names and they number them, and then once the panel of judges at the school, once they rank those and determine the top 3, then they pair those back with the student names. And one of the schools, the top 3, there's just random numbers. Their numbers were still on the copies that they sent us. And one of the students was numbered 15. So I'm like, well, they had at least 15
Wow.
essays,
Well, there you go.
which is a lot when you think about it was
Absolutely.
a school that one year had 0.
Ooh.
So
I hate to hear that 0 part.
yeah.
But I'm glad to see that all the schools, and some of the schools have had just 2, and some had 1, some had none.
Yeah.
And we just want to remind everybody too that if you have a young and it's going to be a junior next year, to do this.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because it costs nothing, and it's a little investment of time. But they'll come up with a new question. Won't be exactly the same as it was this year, but it'll be something. Again, it's going to be personal,
Right.
and it will be a little bit self-absorbing or maybe self-documenting
Reflective,
or
yeah.
whatever the topic they come up with. So, but the student needs to be comfortable writing it, and they just need to have some fun with it because it's not something that you're sitting there and trying to grade them on spelling and trying to grade them on pronunciation. But you definitely want to make sure that they get their point across, and so
Right.
if they write it and it's just kind of just ambient and just nothing there, it's just like background noise, probably not going to get chosen. But if they, especially with some of what you're saying today, some of these kids really put some heartfelt
did.
effort in this, and
Yeah.
that's going to get somebody's attention.
It absolutely, yeah. I imagine some of these teachers reading these essays, and it was probably hard to narrow it down to the top 3
probably was.
because they're, like I said, some talented writers, some students who, like you said, maybe not everything was grammatically correct. The punctuation, there were some issues, but the content of those essays, you can tell the kids put their heart into it, and an essay that has that heart, a lot of times, even with the errors, will outshine one that is perfectly correct, but just not a lot of content, if you will.
And sometimes it's easier for these kids who may need to actually write this down and get it out
Yeah,
to
you're right.
give it to a stranger because they don't know who's going to.
Yeah.
So they can write it down as a testimonial, basically, and it could provide them with a great trip.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they do that, and you can really find out maybe a little bit about yourself and what you write down too, because you're trying to find those right words.
And we had some teachers this year when we go into the classrooms and we talk to the students about this essay contest and the opportunity for a free trip to DC or Jeff City. A lot of the teachers are familiar with the program. They've been there for years. They'll kind of jump in and share some information to encourage their students. And we had several teachers this year tell these kids, hey, next year you're going to be a senior. Write the essay. Even if you don't make top 3, keep that because you're a senior next year and you're going to have some scholarship applications and some college applications that are going to require an essay. This might be something you can reuse.
Exactly.
So even if you don't make top 3, if you spend the time on this, hang on to it because you might be able to use it later on too. It's your original work that you've held on to. So I thought that was really helpful for the teachers to share something like that when they're encouraging their students to participate.
All right, so you've kept us in anticipation.
I know,
for
I know.
20 minutes. So
I'm trying to
well,
decide if I'm going to save Salem for last. It's not at the bottom of the list, but I might
you
leave
can
it at the
save
bottom.
Salem for last. Go
'Kay.
ahead.
So these are the top 3 from each of the schools. We have 9 high schools.
Hold your applause until we're done.
That's right. Yeah, it's a little distracting. Licking, the top 3 students from Licking are Ethan Dominich, Timothy Norris, and Nicole Paola. From Houston, we have Dana Kim, Kristen Eli, and Hayden Riggs. From Kabul, Sharon Moss, Gideon Warnahy, and Michael Riggs. Plato is Joseph Cook, Daniel Sterner, and Destiny Evans. From Rolla, we have Olivia Park, Catherine Arnold, and Mohammed Al-Graya. Summersville is Katie Newby, Audrey Bell, Phoenix Lampone. From Mountain Grove, Carly Olivias, Caitlin Redker, and Cooper Horning. St. James is Ava Innes, Katie Forrester, and Kat Lillies. And then from right here in Salem, we have Jalen Walker, Chloe Baldwin, and Gunnar Mahurin. And if I butchered your last name, I apologize. I will learn how to pronounce it when I meet you on the 23rd. But
it's a nice mix of guys and girls.
oh yeah, we had
You
a
know,
lot of boys participate
Because a lot
this
of
year.
times you just had girls, or sometimes you just had guys.
There's been years where we had all girls and we didn't have any male students represented. So we did a few years ago. We had I don't remember which school he was from, but he was a very outgoing guy, very involved in other things. He won the trip to DC and he came back. And in the upcoming years, we ask if the previous winner can come and talk to the students. And some schools let the kid out of class to kind of help us with our presentation. Sometimes they don't. But he was talking, he's like, guys, there are so many girls on this trip, and we're like, well, maybe we'll get some more essays, but we've had a good mix, and this year we have a really good mix. We've
Yeah,
got
it
several
looks good.
male students that have
Two
wrote
and
that
one,
essay.
2 and 1, 2 and 1.
Yeah.
I think it- one with all. I think one had all girls. I think one of them did, if I heard correctly. Maybe.
Yeah, St. James.
Yeah.
St. James looks like all girls,
But
but the
that's-
rest of them all have a.
Yeah, at least a representative of
right.
both sexes in there, so it's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a nice mix.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet them, and what'll happen on the 23rd. They'll come, they'll do that interview. Each of those 3 students will go just one right after the other. So the school, the 3 from each school, will be done, and the judges take just a little bit to tally their scores, and then we tell them before they leave and start getting stuff
right.
filled out for their trips.
Now we wait for the 23rd.
Now we wait for the 23rd.
Very
Absolutely.
good. Well, congratulations to all those
Yeah.
students, but congratulations to all the students that actually wrote the essay.
That's right. Yeah. And it can be frustrating. I mean, anytime you enter any type of contest, you want to win. I mean, that's the point. That's why you do it. So we appreciate the time that they took to write that essay, and we hope that they're not just totally discouraged. And like the one teacher said, hang on to that. Keep it. You might be able to use it later on this year, next year.
But also the perseverance of Intercounty, and you guys go make a nice presentation, but and doing these radio shows and letting people know this is a big deal. It should be a
is.
big deal for
It
these
is.
students, to win this, but not only to win it though, but just participate in the contest. Don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. Say something or do something that maybe showed the inner you. And it can pay off.
Yeah.
You may need to do that somewhere down the road, because people, if you don't show what you can do, some people they just can't look inside you and say, well, that's the perfect person to do that perfect job. But they can't tell because you're not forthcoming with the information that they need to hear from you. Like, yes, I'd be interested in doing that, or I want to do that. And that's what I've been thinking about doing for all my life.
Right. And a lot of times these kids, we hear from the schools, those years that we did have no essays turned in, or maybe just one essay turned in, and the teacher will come back and tell us, oh, I had several students come back later and say if they would have known, they would have wrote one, but they just didn't think they would have been one of the top 3 writers in their class. And so we tell kids when we go, like, yes, it's the top 3 from your entire junior class, but not everyone is going to write the essay. You don't have to be one of the top 3 out of the 100 students that go here,
But
because
even
they're
that's not bad.
no, it's
It's not like
That's
your
still
top
good
3
odds.
out of 4,000.
Right. But we tell them there may be a dozen, there may be half a dozen, there may only be 3. Like, write it anyway.
But you've told me other co-ops, it is the top 3 out of all their schools.
So we are the
Right.
only co-op in Missouri actually that holds a contest at the individual high school level. And we're really fortunate to have a board that has said, hey, we know that means investing in more students, but we want each school represented. And we want the students the following year to be encouraged because they hear from the seniors who went the year before. What the other co-ops in Missouri do, they collect those essays. They're all returned back to their office. So in our case, we have 9 high schools. we would have all those essays come in, and then we would narrow it down. There may be a secondary, like a speech reading or an interview process or something. But they may send one student to DC. They might send, typically it's like 1 to 4. That's pretty average what co-ops send to DC, and then similar amount to Jeff City. But we send 9, and then we send 18 to Jeff City. So we're the biggest co-op as far as sending kids to these capitals.
These kids should feel fortunate that the co-op,
Absolutely.
number one, wants to benefit them. I think that's great. And it's fantastic. And what you guys do is fantastic. And what these kids can do, hopefully they're going to open up their eyes to a brave new world out there that they had no idea it even existed. And and I think you've told me before that you've had kids go on this trip that have never been out of their basically local area.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it's a real new world out there.
And we have a lot of students, at the end of our presentation, we always make sure if the kids have any questions, we get those answered before we leave. And we almost always have someone ask, do we have to fly to DC? The idea of a flight even is a little terrifying for them. A lot of these students haven't flown, and we tell them, you're not going to be the only one.
Nope,
That's never flown.
You're going to drive, and by the time you get there, you get to say, wave everybody, and turn around and start going back.
Right, yeah. So, little things like that you don't think about, these 16-year-old kids being nervous about, it is a huge experience for them. And with most of the time people they don't know, they may know a student from one of the surrounding schools, maybe being affiliated with the same sport or club that they might be in. But for the most part, nobody knows anybody, and they make new friends, and they come back and they stay in touch. And social media has really made it easy for them to stay in touch afterwards. And we've had students come back and tell us, hey, I roomed in college with one of the girls I met on youth tour. They make these connections, and they've got friendships that last
and
a
a
long
lot
time.
of times, the people have a lot more in common. When you get in a group, you'll find more people that have the same things in common or same interests, and you'll see them pair off a little bit. It's just like it is in high school. You see,
Well, you find people similar to you.
Sure, right. I hate to call them cliques. It's unfortunate that they sometimes get that moniker, but the idea is that if you have a group here that, hey, they're all into science, and they're gonna talk amongst each other because they're all talking about stuff that they all like to do.
Right. And when you've got 110 or so students the same age, you're going to find at least one other person that is similar to you. And no one is going to leave the trip having been totally lonely the whole time. It's not going to happen. And these are good kids that go. These are inclusive kids. Their character, they just have really strong character. They've wrote this essay when they didn't have to. They've made it through the interview process. They're good kids.
Yep, you bet. You bet. So congratulations.
Absolutely.
To all of them, and I want to get a copy of that for you leave today.
Yep.
Okay, very good. All right, well, bingo. Congratulations to all those juniors, and again, thanks to Intercounty, thanks to the kids, thanks to the teachers, the counselors, the schools, for allowing that to happen.
Absolutely.
For the assemblies that you guys hold, and I know a couple of them got kind of bopped around due to some bad weather, but still the accommodations to make it happen. Thank you again to all those administrations that did allow this to happen. Okay. Very good. Well, we have else coming up very, very, very soon, and I know you're saying you're crazy, man. It's not coming up very, very soon. It's annual meeting.
It always comes up soon.
But it will be here before you know it.
Yes. So Friday, June 28th is going to be annual meeting. It is indeed the last Friday in June.
It is
this
indeed.
year. And the important thing we want to mention is that craft vendor application that's in the Rural Missouri this month. Those are due May 1st, but I will tell you, Vanessa already has a stack on her desk that has been returned. Those booth spaces are free, but they are limited. So just because it says May 1st is the deadline, don't hang on to it until then. If you know you want to be a vendor, go ahead, fill that out, and send it back in to us. We'll get you on the list, and then as it gets closer, we'll get you some information about when to set up and tear down and that kind of information.
I did want to ask, because somebody asked me, they said, well, Like, well, they asked me, I've never been to one of those. And I
Okay.
said, well, okay, I have been to them, and I saw different vendors do a lot of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, what if what I sell is the same as somebody else who's the same as somebody else? Do they just pick one or two or three or four? Do they want a diverse amount of different arts and crafts there? I said, I cannot answer that question. I don't know how that works. I do know it's first come, first serve.
It's first come, first serve.
However, I'm not sure if they have 52 different people who are painting sunsets, if they're going to limit it to 3 or 5. That I can't tell you.
We've not ever had a situation where there's been a noticeable enough number of the same amount of things that we've thought, oh, maybe we should change this and not do first come, first serve. Maybe we need to look at what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We've not ever had to do that. There never did feel like there was a need to. And I understand their concern because they may not want to spend their time sitting at an event where there's a dozen other vendors just like them. The good thing is we don't charge anything for booth rent. So, they do have their time and what it costs for them to get their stuff there that day. But, we'd have to check with Vanessa if they wanted to be a vendor, but only if there was not going to be anybody else like them. When they got their letter, they could always call her and ask and then make their decision, because there's usually people on the waiting list to have a booth space. So if when you get your letter, you want to call in and ask if there's anyone else like you and how many, I'm sure she would answer that. And then if you decide not to come that day, if you could let her know, then we could have
Somebody else
kind of
Sure.
fill that spot.
Anyway, it was just a question that came up. I thought I'd bring it up because I did not have an answer.
Yeah, it's a good question.
And, because I have gone to craft fairs. We all have gone to craft fairs before, where you see maybe a woodmaker and whatever was popular the year before all of a sudden seems to blossom into 5 different vendors
Right.
exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there is no copyright or trademark on those that you can do. It's just your own hand. You can put one little extra line on there, nobody would know the difference. So, anyway, it was just a good. It was a good question to ask me because I did not have an answer.
Yeah.
And so I asked the Ford answer man here,
Yeah. Absolutely.
or whoever I need to ask. But usually Heather has a pretty good answer for this. But again, if you are going to do the crafting, get that application in. It's in the rural Missouri,
It is. Yep.
and you should have already gotten that by now. But that's the one you want, the last one. It won't be very long.
I know. And we joke about the day after annual meeting, we start planning next year's annual meeting, but it's not really a joke because
You have to.
you've got to. Yeah.
Well, first off, usually the day after is probably when you go over everything that happened at the previous meeting. What can we do better? What didn't work out so well?
What worked,
What
what
did we
didn't work.
change that we're going to change
Yeah.
back? Or
Yeah.
there's just you just have to do an overview of your previous meeting. Obviously, the weather you can't change. So if it rains or if it's 162 degrees in the shade, not much you can do about that. But as far as everything else, Intercounty Approval has it down to a science of how
Yeah.
you want to gauge that meeting and then make the suggestions or corrections
Yep.
for next year.
Yep, absolutely. And we do make minor tweaks along the way. Something that we're adding this year that I'm excited for because I just love kids. We have the bike drawing, but we don't have it for all ages. It's I think it's 5 to 8 and 9 to 12, and we have all these little kids running around that are under 5, and they want to enter the bike drawing. Well, we're going to have little bikes this year. So there'll be an extra age category for these littles, and we'll just
Tricycles?
we'll get something that's got some,
You got little trikes out there?
no, what's the
Training wheels?
training wheels? Yeah, thank
What's
you.
wrong with a tricycle? It's pretty cool. I used to love a tricycle.
Little, you're talking little kids.
I'm not talking little. You could,
Big kid trike?
well, yeah, they're kind of fun. They used
Yeah.
to have actually big kid trike races.
I
Pretty
think
good
there's some
size
people
trike
that
races.
probably still have big kid
yeah,
trike
well, yeah.
races.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
it is kind of fun. But anyway, but that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I know. I think it was a couple of months back. Probably was right after the last meeting. You said, the little kids they're so despondent because they don't get a chance to win the bike.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, that's a
their
big,
brothers all sign up and they can't, or their
right,
sisters do.
right. Or you'll see them come up to the table and they want to fill out a ticket and they're not old enough. And it's just, you just want to see those kids happy. So we're going to do 2 extra
Good.
bikes this year.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Do we have entertainment known yet, or
I think-
has it been locked down yet, or are we
Yes.
still in the? Okay.
It is, and I don't have the name of them, but it's a bluegrass group from Rolla. That really narrows it
Okay,
down,
that's
doesn't it? I'll bring that
blue-
with me next month.
That's fine. That's fine.
But yes, they're gonna have bluegrass entertainment. The guys are gonna grill burgers again, and have a sack lunch available. We'll have the member services tent that'll be set up. The kids can take their picture in a bucket. We'll have the registration gift.
That's a bucket truck,
Yeah, well, it's
not just in a bucket.
no. Well,
you know, I'm
yeah.
just
yeah. So it's not
like a
actually
water bucket.
It's not in a water bucket. No. But it's not a bucket attached to the
Right.
truck. It's kind of like a photo op.
Yeah.
But that's a really popular thing. Even adults, they're like, "Oh, I got to get my picture this year. I do it every year."
Yeah.
You
well,
know. So
they ought to get up in one of those though.
I'm not going to share my idea because they'll probably get me in trouble.
No, you probably don't want to do that. But anyway,
Yeah. I think that should be available. There, I said it.
yeah. Well,
Maybe one of these years.
maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But-
I had a chance to work in an intercounty bucket truck when I
Oh, did you?
did some light work and speaker work on commons and things of that nature. So intercounty graciously donated a bucket truck and an operator. But they weren't going to go up there and hook up the speakers. So
Yeah.
I got into the bucket.
So
It's a little terrifying at times.
Makes
Till
you
get
really
used to it.
appreciate what they do, huh?
Yeah, until you get used to it.
Yeah.
You know, because you're on the way up, or especially when it's moving, you're pretty unstable. You feel unstable.
Yeah.
You're really not in any jeopardy, but
Yeah.
you're kind of suspended in the air and you're moving, and they're turning it and then getting it in the right position. Like,
You were glad to be done, weren't you?
yeah, oh yeah, it's hot. It was hot up there. You know, it was done during the summer. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, it was intriguing. So you get up there about 20 feet in the air, and you got that. And the bucket doesn't move, so it's stable. But you're having to move around, and you have to. And every time you move, of course, the bucket's going to shift a little bit. So, yeah, but it
neat
does, but it does
experience,
give
so-
you great appreciation for what those linemen
Yeah.
have to go through. So, yeah, oh yeah, very much so, very much so. Always appreciated what linemen do. It's not going to be me.
Nor I.
Not going to be
Yeah.
me. That's not. It's just not what I do. Speakers, I can do. You know,
Yeah.
I can do that. I'll attach them to over there, and I'll hook them up. But not that I want
Not
to get
the
up
energized
there. I
line.
don't want to do those energized lines. So.
Yeah. I agree.
Thank you, but no. Okay, very good. So anyway, but annual meeting. Check your rural Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a crafter or vendor,
Right?
fill it out, get it in, get it mailed, get it out now.
Yeah. Good
Sooner
idea.
the better. First come, first serve.
You're right.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Not hard.
Not hard. Make sure you do mail it in, though. Don't put it on the side of the fridge and put a little magnet there and say, I need to send that in. Fill it out now
Yeah.
and mail it in now. 'Cause,
Yeah.
you know, time's going to run out.
Yeah. Or if you're going to be around one of our offices, Rolla, Licking, or Mountain Grove,
there
you
you
could
go.
always drop it off at one of the
Sure.
offices too, and it'll get to the right person, and we'll
That's
get
true.
you on the list.
That's true. Very good. All right. Very good. We got some bad news, though, to bring.
Well, it's not bad news anymore
It is-
because we've
it
already
is-
been talking about
I
it.
know it, but I mean, it's bad news to the pocketbook.
Yeah, it's a reminder that we have a rate increase coming April 1st, and we've been talking about this for several months. We just want to make sure we're being transparent.
And
that-
we haven't talked them out of it either.
No, no. I mean, this is kind of set. And actually, our wholesale power cost increases were effective to us January 1. But our board, they said no, absolutely not. We're not going to pass a rate increase on to our members in winter when a lot of them, you know, these are their highest usage months.
Oh, yeah.
we will absorb those costs. We will make it work. Springtime is when, if we have to have a rate increase, that's when we're going to put it in.
Gradually work into it.
Yeah. So April 1, that goes into effect. We've had information in the magazine. Your bills should have had an example of what to expect as far as the rate increase for your type of account. And then, of course, we've been talking about on the radios too. But main thing, we just want people to know that it's coming. We don't want you May 1st to get your bill and think, why is this higher? I had no idea this was coming. I didn't plan for this. The average member's bill, when we take a look at what our average member uses and we do the math, it's an increase of about $7 a month, which is not a terrible increase, but it is an increase. There's an increase in the service availability and the kilowatt hour
$1.50
rate.
a week.
And we want people to be able to budget for that because we have a lot of members on fixed incomes, and $7 is $7. So hopefully there's been enough time. We've had some members call in, ask about some energy efficiency tips. We've had some members request energy audits so they can kind of get ahead of this. And they're thinking, well, if the rates are going up, maybe I can drop my usage. And what can I do that would be more efficient in my home? And some of these things that we've even talked about before, like not standing with the door open or knowing what you want out of the fridge before you open it, keeping good caulking around your windows and weather stripping around your doors. Those are things that might seem obvious, but when you're just overwhelmed with where do I start, a reminder of some of those simple things is helpful a lot of times. So we've had some members get ahead of it that way. We've had members ask about levelized billing. They're taking a look at what's my average usage and can we get set up on levelized billing so that I can budget for the same amount every month. And so I think our members are prepared for this. We've heard from a lot of them. They're not surprised that we're having to raise rates. We all know costs for things are going up. When we take a look, even just 5 years ago, the cost of a pole, just your standard pole out there, it was like $153 5 years ago.
You won't find one near that.
Now it's $350. Just a huge cost increase for just a very basic thing that we use. And so I don't think our members are questioning why are we having to have an increase, but they just appreciate knowing in advance so that they can kind of plan for that. So we want to talk about it. It's not a fun thing to talk about. We'd rather talk about youth tour.
Absolutely.
Or annual meeting. But we want members to know April 1, that will go into effect. May 1st bill is going to show that. So just if between now and then, if you want some tips or an audit or to be set up on levelized, we can take care of that for you.
Okay, so here we are in spring, and one of the things that we have talked about in the spring before, and we're going to talk about it again today, because now that we're kind of getting past the winter months, people are going to start looking at building. Might be building a pool, might be building a new house, might be building maybe it's a work shed, or maybe a car repair shop, or something you're going to utilize. Guys, do not assume that you have inter-county electric popping up out of every weed in every corner of every lot. It's not always that easy. And this could also be for potential home buyers who are buying pieces of land. It is very important that you get in touch with inter-county and say, this is where I'm buying this land. How accessible is this to electric service? And if you don't have, and if it's not immediately saying, hey, well, you're only 30 feet away or 40 feet away, we'll run a couple of poles, it'll be good. If they have to run that line 3 to 4 miles, it's going to be a costly projection of your property. Going to change that whole outlook of what you thought was going to be affordable electric. Because it's going to cost a lot of money. Because as you're mentioning, $350 a pole. And you got to put those number of poles to get that electric service to you. Engineering can help you out. You
Absolutely.
just need to get with them and get with them ahead of time. Don't wait until, well, yeah, I got the well digger out here. I'm going to put the well right here. We're going to put the house right there. And all we need is electric and water. we're good. All you need.
Yeah.
It may be a while.
Yeah. And
Then again, it may be extremely costly, but maybe it's not. And that might be the good news.
right. You know, those engineers, they've got their work cut out for them because, and you've shared this before, you might be able to see a span of lines just in the next field over.
Yeah.
But there might be some right-of-way easement issues. Maybe there's not an easement to go through. Maybe we've got a landowner that says no, you know, and they've got to find other routes to get there. And sometimes it is just a cost issue. Maybe we might have a member with a chunk of land, and they think they know where they want the house, but when it's in the back 40 instead of the front 40, the cost difference, you know, sometimes that can change where they want to put a home.
Sure. What your plans are, absolutely.
Yeah.
It can.
So-
that and water availability, too.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. So make sure that if you are, especially with building a house, if you're needing electric, water, you're going to have other utilities too that you're going to need. Get a hold of those places. Get a hold of us prior. Let us be a part of that planning process. We can provide you with information then that you can use to decide where and what you want to put.
'cause we know this happens.
It does.
It happens
yeah.
all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't want it to happen to you. Okay. Another great thing, too, is Intercounty. Years ago, I bought a fantastic Coleman generator, backup generator from them. It finally died.
Did it?
It took about 28 years, but it
That's
finally...
actually impressive.
It is.
Yeah.
But it finally died. I don't know why it died. It was working last winter, and the spring when electric went off, it didn't come on. I went out there, and it's just... Well, it's pretty rusted by now. But
Yeah.
anyway, we just put a new battery on it. It still didn't work. So figure it's probably time.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, at that time, Intercounty used to sell these. Now, they don't sell them anymore.
Right.
But they can still help you determine how much of a backup generator that you may need. You know, they can help you with how many different things you're using and, you know, how much do you need. If you have a built-in freezer that's 20 by 20, that's got all your deer and bear meat and everything else in there, that's
Yeah.
going to be a lot more.
You're going to want to do some calculations to figure out what size you need. You know, showing up to buy one and just looking at what's on sale and what might be affordable and not knowing if that can run what you need to
Right.
to run at home. That's not a really wise shopping method. So yeah, do some calculations. If you need some help trying to figure out how to do those calculations, you can give us a call.
Because a lot of that, when we talk about backup generators, okay, yeah, there's portable ones, and then there's hard mount ones. The hard mount ones, you're going to need a double throw switch. The other ones, you may not need a double throw switch, but Intercounty has that solution as well.
We do, yep. So there's a Generalink device. It goes actually behind the meter. There's a spot for a plug, and then you plug that into your portable generator. Those two, we're talking about planning and getting with Intercounty. We don't keep those in stock because those cords, each generator's got a different plug. There's just so many different options. So we order those based on what our members need.
Right.
So if you have a generator now and you don't have a double throw or a Generalink, definitely get a hold of us, because what unfortunately happens a lot of times is we'll have members, they'll go and purchase the generator. It's like an insurance. You hope you don't ever have to use it, but you've got it. Then in the forecast, there'll be some bad weather that's forecasted. And on a Friday afternoon, we'll get a call. Hey, I've got this generator. It's supposed to get bad this weekend.
Yeah.
Can you come install one of those devices?
Yeah.
We cannot get out there normally same day.
And you may not have it in stock.
And we're not going to have it in stock. It's got to be ordered. So let us be part of that planning process. We need those to be operated safely for the safety of our linemen that are out working on the line. Those can backfeed. But also, you know, we don't want your appliances and the things that you have at your home that you're plugging into that are obviously important. When that power comes back on, if you don't have one of those devices, that equipment may not be protected.
Yep.
So
Burn
it
that
goes,
up in a heartbeat.
obviously, the lives of our linemen, I mean,
First and foremost.
First and foremost. Their safety is more important, I'm sorry, than your walk-in freezer even.
Yeah, but your safety is too. Because
But your
if
safety is
you're
too.
going to
Absolutely.
charge that. That can blow that motor and short that whole unit out, and it could be electrified itself.
And those things, like I said, they're obviously important to you if you're needing to run them in the case of a power outage. So we want to protect them. We want to protect our guys. That means we've got to have some sort of equipment there to use to be that safety feature in the case that they're being used.
So think about it. It's March. We usually have April showers bring May flowers, but March thunderstorms are
Yeah.
more than likely, well, I won't say more than likely going to happen. They already have happened a little bit.
They have,
We've had
yeah,
some
we've had
thunder
some.
snow here not too long ago.
I think that's something.
That is kind of crazy, but it can happen. So you definitely want to make
Mm-hmm.
sure. But in the case that if you are going to need, and maybe your needs have changed, like for example, my generator that I got when we just had one transmitter. Now we have two.
Mm-hmm.
Did it change to where I'm gonna need more? I don't think so, but I'm still gonna need to replace the one I have.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, the double throw switch is fine. That's not the problem. It's just
Yeah.
the generator has been. Well, you gotta give it a lot of credit. It sat outside in all those different types of
28
weather.
years
And
is-
28 years. It's a long time.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm feeling I got my money's worth out of that one.
Yeah.
But it definitely, if it's something you have to have, but that for your own protection, maybe you have somebody who medically needs electric all the time. They have to have something there. Make sure you have that backup generator there ready to go, and whatever it is, could be a smaller one, could be a gasoline one, whatever. But don't put it inside.
I was just going to say that as soon as you said gasoline. I'm like, do not operate those indoors.
Or propane, either one. Don't have them inside. When they burn, they have to exhaust, and
Yeah.
don't put it right outside the open window either.
Right. And it doesn't matter, we've had the question before, well, what if I put it in a room and shut the door? No, not indoors at all.
It's
Well,
first off, it's
ventilated
going to shut
outs-
itself off. It needs air.
Yeah.
Eventually, it's going to choke out.
Yeah.
So you definitely don't want to do that. But get these things done. It's just a good time of year to start thinking about it. Also a good time of year, and we're not going to tell you a whole bunch of different things. Obviously, spring starts to make things seem a lot more conducive to outdoor activities. So be it your swimming pool, boat dock, anything else that you need to get checked. You don't know what the winter brought. If it brought high winds, if it brought ice, if it brought something else, maybe it pulled those lines apart. Maybe they were all in PVC pipe, but all of a sudden it's been out there for 15, 20 years. That PVC pipe is broke. Or it has gotten brittle and it's cracking or whatever it might
Stuff
be.
shifts.
Some of those wires can be too, and you don't want to forget about that. So whether you have something at home, you maybe have an outdoor plug or things of that nature, or down at the dock, don't just assume they're going to work. Have them checked. Now, that's not what Inter-County does, but for your own safety, you want to make sure, especially if you have that wire traveling underneath the wood on your dock.
Yep.
That is a real scary thought because you can't see it.
It's worth having someone qualified, an electrician, to come and inspect that and give you hey, you are good. It's all good.
Yeah. A big green check mark is a wonderful thing to have.
And if there's not one, then it was really worth having them come out and check it. Because you want to fix that before your family starts to enjoy those warm weather activities.
Yeah, and then just don't shut off the electric and say, well, I'll only turn it on when I need it.
Like when people are there.
Well, that's just it.
Yeah.
You're going to need it when you need to go to the boat dock, and the worst thing you can do is have that on. What if you slip and fall in the water? It
Right.
does happen.
Right.
You don't want that to happen, or you accidentally are touching the dock and a metal pole, or maybe you got a metal pole in your hand, it's touching something else. Don't take that chances.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed how many just strange different ways. Remember, there used to be an old TV show called 50 Strange Ways to Die or something like that. There's all kinds of different things how people have passed because it doesn't seem logical or even possible this could happen, but it does.
Huh.
I often talk about the accidents on the road where you hit a power pole and a line comes down and it's wet. And it's touching that pavement. The pavement's wet. if it's running wet and it's if it has a little bit of surface water and you have flip-flops on and you decide you want to step out there, you're not going to have a chance.
Yeah.
You're going to fry. And that's not what we want to have happen. And a lot of times you can't even see where the lines are if you would have an accident. You don't know where they are. You
Yeah.
step out of a vehicle, you can be totally unaware.
Yeah. And that's why we try to remind people, if you're ever involved in an accident involving a power line, stay in the vehicle. And I get it. Your first instinct, I got to get out. Am I okay? How bad is the damage? Maybe you've got other people in the car that you're wanting to get out. But unless that vehicle is on fire, just stay put. Wait until emergency services get
Right.
there. We can verify the lines off. You know, TV has really dramatized what people think a live power line looks like. They think it has to be arcing and sparking and kind of flopping around and dancing.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. And like you said, you can't always see it anyway. So
Right.
stay
At night,
in the
if
vehicle.
you have a black line down, how are you going to
yeah.
see it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You're not going to. And, you know, not just vehicle accidents, but after weather events. You know, if there's been a storm and there's a tree down in your yard and there's a power line tangled in there, I guarantee you, you're not going to see that right away. And even after that's been de-energized, if you were to stand out there and try to find it, that's going to blend in with that
Sure,
tree and
sure.
the branches and twigs really easily. So stay away from areas like that. We have some really great members. They want to help. They're very helpful. But the best thing you can do in a situation like that, stay away from it. If you come up on an accident and you
Sure.
feel like you want to help, shout at that person to stay in the vehicle. If you have time to stay there to make sure other people don't stop and get out of their vehicle, you can help that
Right.
way. But call us, call 911, report that, and then let our guys who are trained in that take care of it.
And it's always good to maybe even survey your home before a storm, and then I'd say survey it after a storm. But always notice that if you go outside, if it's wet, try and wait till the ground dries out a little bit. So if there's a lot of water on top of the grass and things of that nature, you're not exposing yourself to it. But then give it a little while, because you definitely will notice it. Trust me, if you are at the very tip end and there's a power line down 400 feet away, the closer you get, you're going to start to feel something. Even though it's in the grass, you may not, get that immediate jolt, but you'll start to feel it. And if you start to feel it, you probably got a line down.
Yeah.
Be cautious. Stop going that direction quickly and then make the phone call. Don't just assume, and don't just assume the inter-county knows it's down, because it may still be on. It's showing a live line going right through your property. Doesn't know that the pole is tipped or
Right.
whatever. So, don't do anything that you don't think about first.
Right. That's the biggest thing.
Think about what you have to do first, because it could possibly save your life.
Absolutely.
And we don't want anybody to have to go through any of that. Life's too short to begin with, and then to hasten it by a kind of a crazy accident. Man, we don't want to do that. Anyway, we always appreciate Heather coming over. Our time goes so fast.
It does go fast.
But it was such a good day today talking about these kids.
These
That
youth
was
turn.
that
Yeah.
was well worth the time. Also, don't forget, if you are a vendor or crafter, get your application in. It doesn't take much to fill out that form. Get it in the mail. Get it intercounty. Or as Heather even said, having to be in the Rolla Mountain Grove or Licking area, go by the office.
Right. Just drop it off with us.
And they can do it that way too.
Yep.
I'm not going to mention the other thing, so we'll leave that alone.
Okay.
You'll know about it next month.
We'll
It'll be on your bill.
we'll talk about all the things.
Yeah. But it is coming up on summer, and next time, but we're going to start talking about air conditioning.
I know. We've had some hot days.
We have had some hot days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've had members tell us, I've got my air conditioner on during the day, my heat on at night.
That
So-
also is happening.
So we're going to talk to you about that next
Yeah,
month, too.
we sure will.
Yeah.
And if you don't forget, guys, if you do need assistance with some insulation or things of that nature, even new windows, remember your South Central Community Action Agency can help you if you're a low-income person.
Yeah, that's right.
They have programs that can provide you with weatherization Doesn't cost you anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the LIHEAP program is good to help you get through some tough
some
times
utility.
too.
Yep.
So please contact them, South Central Community Action Agency. It's you call Intercounty. I'm sure you guys
We
have
can
that
refer
number,
you, yeah.
right? But
Yep.
get in touch with them, and of course you can go on to your smart hub, and there's some tips on there about what to look for in your home too.
Mm-hmm.
Always a good source of information is your Intercounty, your IECA.coop source. It really has a lot of good information on there, including old copies of rural Missouri.
Yeah.
You can actually go through some of that stuff. Pretty cool.
Yeah. There's some good articles.
It really is.
Yeah.
Great pictures, good articles,
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
good stuff. Heather, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hope you have, I guess we won't see each other again till after Easter.
It will be after Easter. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll be back in April and we'll talk some more about all things spring and give you some more. I'll bring some annual
spring.
meeting details.
Yes, you'll
bring
have a lot
those with
more
me. Yeah.
more details about that. Very good. Well, we always appreciate Heather coming in, or any representative of Intercounty. And don't forget, they have a lot of different programs going on. If you have a need for sizing a generator, remember to call them. They can help you out with that. If you have a need to locate where your nearest electric availability may be, get that done. Guys, before you decide that you want to put the house in the very back, low, southeastern corner of your property, 14 miles from the nearest electrical possibility. That
that'd
would
be
not
awful.
be a wise thing to do. Only because I know that, and we've talked about it so many times, easements are not automatic,
They're not.
you know,
Yeah.
and also don't think you're going to get this done in a week. Because if they have to go get easements, that means Intercounty has to make appointments with the other landowners to talk with them.
And then get 'em
Even if they can
filed.
try and call them, a lot of times these people want to talk with them. They want to see where they're planning on going, and they want to meet with them.
Yep.
And you can't blame them. If it's going through your property and somebody says, yes, I need an easement 4 feet off the lateral half of your lower your lower township, you may not know where
Can
that
you
is.
show me where that is? Yeah.
Can you come out here and walk me through this so I
Yeah,
know where it is?
absolutely.
And it's just, even though it's just an easement, it's still somebody's property.
Yep. So let us be part of that planning
Yeah,
process.
but don't try and get it, schedule something for like a week or 2 weeks away. Give them a call now. If you want something done in July and August or even September, call now.
Yeah.
Because if they have to do it, and maybe they don't have to, maybe they've already got it set and it won't take that long. That's great.
Yeah. But we've still got to get you on the schedule with those construction crews so they can get the equipment that they need and they can get it scheduled. And sometimes weather can delay stuff
right.
like that too. So,
Right, and then once they do that, they'll probably call Dig Right, make sure that everything is good there, you know, and if they find any issues there where maybe they had intended to put the line, they can't.
it's
They
possible.
may have to come back and do it again. Anything can happen out there, so don't just assume, hey, the line's right there. This is going to be a breeze.
I'll just wait till Monday to call them because I need
Exactly.
it Friday.
Famous last
Yeah.
words. I'll just wait. Yeah.
Please don't.
You are going to wait. You may be waiting a long time. You may get the shock of your life. Let's hope that doesn't happen. We don't want anybody to have to go through that.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Heather, for coming in right
Absolutely.
here at KSMO Radio. We do this with our friends from Intercounty every second Tuesday of the month, 8:30. And we do, again, appreciate Intercounty being very, very cooperative in doing
Yeah.
this. It's a wonder. I always think it's a good service. I really do appreciate learning some different things from you. This was great today. I've
Good.
been looking forward to, hoping we were going to have a good turnout.
Yeah. Me too.
Yeah, thank you. Again, Heather, you have a fantastic rest of
Yeah,
the
you
day.
as well.
We have civic happenings coming up in just a moment.
KSMO Salem.
Save on everyday items with digital coupons at Country Mart. It's easy. Download